is Dennis Michelsen. It's time to go down on the farm and tell you about another one of the great products from Agricen that you can find at your local Nutrient Ag Solutions location. And joining me on the hotline to tell you all about it, it's Scott Lay. Scott, great to have you back.
Dennis, always a pleasure to be with you and your listeners. Raising crops is much like a relay race. The first leg of the race, planting, is now being completed. We turn our attention to the next stage in the early post-emerge herbicide applications in both corn and beans. So we start to think about what we could be doing to help maximize that yield potential.
Tell us a little bit about Terramar and why this is an important addition to the game plan.
Well, Terramar is not only a new product from Loveland Products, the Nutrient Ag Solutions, but more importantly, it's a new practice. And that new practice that is now evolved or is now available to be employed in farmers' growing systems is the practice of minimizing weather stresses. As we all know, weather plays a tremendous role in determining yield, and that may present itself as through the months of May and June and July in the form of heat or drought or other challenges that really max the yield potential that exists. Terramar helps to minimize the stress impact those crops experience and allows them to realize more of their potential.
Tell us a little bit about what this product is all about. I understand it's derived in part from kelp.
It is, and it took myself and others a few years to wrap our heads around just benefits of what kelp-derived materials may do. Our colleagues, our counterparts in California and fruit-growing fruit and vegetable high-value crops have been using kelp for some time, and they recognize that those plant extracts from kelp, again, produce natural antibodies in the plant that help. Again, it doesn't take the place of moisture or precipitation, but it does allow that plant to continue on more of its normal physiological growth processes and minimizing the impact of heat and drought. So that's an important part of it. The second part of it is there's a carbon component to Terramar. And even in the absence of stress, that carbon provides needed energy for the plant, and that energy then is translated into a plant that can pull more water and nutrients into the cells as it needs them. We saw some tremendous yield impact, positive yield impacts last year when Terramar was applied in corn and beans.
When I went over to the website to learn more about Terramar, it said it included a Leonardite. What is a Leonardite, and how is this beneficial to crops?
Leonardite is in the subsurface of our earth soil profile. It's the layer above coal. And again, when that is biologically extracted through our process, that is what produces the carbon in Terramar. That again, as we talked about earlier, carbon translates to or provides biochemical compounds that stimulate that plant to produce more root fibers, to produce more energy that pulls water and nutrients into that plant. So it's really a critical component in stimulating that plant to really go about its normal processes or accelerate those normal processes, rather, to pull in more energy.
You said it helps increase a crop's ability to handle stress, and Lord knows, stress of many types can rob us of yield in any given year. There's a lot of different kinds of stress that Terramar can help fight.
We believe that to be true, and I think the challenges, and you talked about it, with the unpredictable nature of weather patterns today, we can't outguess Mother Nature. So our belief is if we apply this technology, Terramar that is, early on in the crop's growth process, we're preparing that crop for whatever may come. And again, while we can't predict whether there will be heat or drought impact on that crop, what we do know is if we can measure specific metrics in the plant, for instance, increased chlorophyll production, increased water transpiration, which translates to a lower crop canopy temperature, those are all very positive aspects regardless of the weather circumstances that will result in a better performing plant.
Well, Scott, Terramar is applied with a foliar application, and I understand it mixes well with those other crop inputs we're already going to be using. How late into the season can we apply Terramar?
It can be applied even as late as reproductive stages in concert with fungicide applications. So in corn, That's shortly after pollination or tassel time. And in soybeans, those fungicide applications may take place well into the reproductive stages, into as late July or early August, where again, the drought and or heat still has the opportunity or potential rather to minimize that plant's ability to fill its grain and produce the yield that's more closer to the potential we're looking for.
Scott, I like to think of a product like Terramar as sort of like an insurance policy, and it will help in the worst of years, and it's certainly not going to be a factor in a negative in any way in a great year. With it being able to be applied at different times, is this maybe, could we benefit a little bit more by using it twice here, one run with the herbicides and then maybe later with the fungicide application?
I think that's where our mind or our thinking is going, and is we continue to conduct evaluations, trials in both university replicated environments as well as on the farm real field production scenarios. Last year we saw evidence of that, where multiple applications turned out to provide a greater return in terms of increased yield. So again, you could think of it as an insurance policy, or really it's a dose of material that allows that plant to perform more closely to its potential. So multiple timings dosing it into the plant appears to be very advantageous. And again, in the absence of stress, pulling more nutrients into that plant, which the carbon-based component provides, is a very critical yield-enhancing practice.
Well, Scott, it's all about the return on investment. What sorts of results have we seen when we look at the ROI?
We were very pleased with what we saw last year. The average response in corn was 7 to 8 bushels. Again, in times of severe heat and drought stress like we had in the western Corn Belt, those yield responses were even greater, oftentimes in the 12 to 15 bushel range. In soybeans, last year the average yield response was right at about 4 to 5 bushels, which, again, under today's commodity price environment is a very handsome return. So we believe that there is a consistent return on investment for that application of Terramar.
Well, Scott, before I let you go, where can folks find out more information?
Visit your local Nutrient Ag Solutions retailer to learn more about the product.